Episode 171. When Han Li attached a sliver of his consciousness to that puppet and commanded it to move, the sensation was truly extraordinary. It was neither as ethereal as manipulating a magic tool, nor as tangible as moving his own limbs. In truth, his divided consciousness and this puppet beast were like a superior and subordinate relationship. With a single thought from him, the puppet acted on his command. As for the specifics of how the enemy would act, that was still left to the puppet itself to handle. However, Han Li could still clearly sense everything the puppet beast saw and heard. This was a pleasant surprise for him. As he manipulated them, Han Li gradually began to experience the limitations of these mechanical puppets. First, these puppets could only operate within a 3 li radius of him. Beyond that distance, they would freeze up, and his split soul would fly back.
This must be related to the maximum distance my nascent soul can separate from my main body. Once my cultivation base and origin soul reach a higher level, this should still be improvable.
But the next flaw was inherent to the puppet art itself, something that could not be remedied. That delay between receiving a command and acting on it meant they could never truly move as one with the user's will. In a real fight, that could easily leave an opening for the opponent to exploit.
But even with those 2 flaws, this puppet technique was still no small matter. As long as I split off a few more strands of divine sense and master the first layer of the great development art, I'll be more than a match for even a formidable foundation establishment cultivator. After all, having a dozen extra helpers by my side, even if they're only at the chi condensation stage, would be enough to protect myself. At the very least, if that ghost spirit sect young master traps me again, I won't have to fear his endless army of blood ghosts.
The low-grade mechanical puppets only consumed low-tier spirit stones to operate. Only a giant tiger puppet like the one the 1,000 Bamboo Sect's Huang Long had built consumed mid-grade spirit stones, precisely because its power was too great. Han Li estimated that puppet was at least grade 3, a beast even several foundation establishment cultivators wouldn't dare face head-on. That alone showed just how terrifying its power truly was.
What a pity. That puppet was reduced to ashes by Uncle Lay's magic treasure. If I'd gotten my hands on it, it would have been a devastating trump card.
Every time Han Li thought about the benefits of that giant tiger puppet, his fingers itched with desire, and he threw himself into crafting these mechanical puppets with even greater fervor. Finally, after crafting 10 basic puppets, Han Li decided to attempt a second-tier one. This was the same type of main combat puppet he had seen the 1,000 Bamboo Sect using before.
As long as I can craft even this grade of puppet, I'll never have to worry about running out of them again.
But crafting a second-tier puppet wasn't like using scrap metal as raw material. Every component was on par with a high-grade magic tool, and the main ingredient alone required centuries-old ironwood, an expense that didn't come cheap.
If I were in my own cave dwelling, cultivating a few seasoned ironwood trees wouldn't be a problem at all. But now, with my duties tying me here, I have no choice but to grit my teeth and have them gathered from the market. I have the materials now, but I still need to gather suitable souls. The yellow rat souls that were so common in the canyon are far too weak. Even fusing them together wouldn't yield any significant improvement.
So Han Li set his sights on the natural enemy of the weasels, the desert lizard. By now, after 3 or 4 months of grueling practice, Han Li had already split off several strands of his divine sense. So he used those split souls to control several low-level puppet beasts, sweeping across the wilderness to clear out lizard nests, which led to the scene at the start. Han Li put away the bottle containing the lizard souls, then closed his eyes again and resumed cultivating the grand divination art to slowly strengthen his origin soul. This great derivation art was the true key to mastering the puppet technique. Han Li dared not slack off in the slightest.
The great development art truly lives up to its reputation as the true teaching method of the 1,000 Bamboo School. Compared to it, ordinary soul-splitting techniques are utterly insignificant. ordinary divine sense splitting techniques only forcibly split off a small portion of one's original divine sense. As for how many strands of divine sense one could split, that depended entirely on the strength of one's origin soul. It was not something that could be altered through Hotian cultivation. The Great Development art, however, precisely made up for this shortcoming. Through cultivation, it could gradually strengthen one's original origin soul, allowing it to rival even those with naturally exceptional origin soul power. The method it used to split divine sense was also far safer than ordinary methods, allowing the divine sense to be divided more finely and in greater quantity without harming the integrity of the origin soul. With that comparison, it's no wonder the Thousand Bamboo sect made the Great Development art the very foundation of their sect, and why Senior Brother Lin can't stop thinking about those final 3 layers of the technique.
According to the Great Divination art, after mastering the first layer, the origin soul could split into over a dozen strands of divine sense. By the second layer, that number reached over 100, and the third layer, just like Senior Lin, allowed one to split their mind into several hundred strands. Just thinking about reaching the third layer and controlling hundreds of gold ore puppets in battle at once, even Han Li had to admit that was a bit absurd.
But this kind of freakish power is probably only good for bullying people at the Foundation establishment stage. Once you reach core formation, unless you can craft hundreds of grade 3 puppets that match Foundation establishment cultivators in strength, no matter how many you control, they won't survive a single full-powered strike from a core formation cultivator. I still vividly recall the day Senior Lei swept through thousands of those second-tier puppets from the Thousand Bamboo sect.
If crafting a second-tier puppet already requires top-grade magic tool materials, then crafting higher-tier ones would need at least premium-grade magic tool materials. This meant that a core formation cultivator practicing the puppet arts would need at least several hundred sets of top-grade magic tool materials just to match cultivators of other techniques at the same stage as they had during Foundation establishment, and that's not even accounting for the materials wasted in failed attempts or the hundreds of powerful souls required which were simply impossible to find anywhere. This left Han Li inwardly shaken for quite some time, and this was likely the main reason why the Thousand Bamboo sect's puppet arts were so rarely known. After all, a sect's strength was measured by how many core formation cultivators it had. The Thousand Bamboo sect couldn't compete with other sects in core formation level battles, so no matter how powerful their Foundation establishment disciples were, they could only huddle in one corner and dominate a single region. Of course, all of this was merely speculation on Han Li's part after cultivating the Great Development art and the puppetry technique. But there was no denying it. The puppet arts could dramatically boost Han Li's strength at Foundation establishment. So for now, Han Li couldn't afford to worry about future consequences. After all, the war that had already stirred up several nations in the cultivation world was only just beginning. Not long after Han Li took up his post as a guard at the spirit mine, a pitched battle of ambush and counter-ambush erupted on a remote, barren mountain. As for the specifics, Han Li had gradually come to understand them by now.
The Spirit Beast Mountain among the 7 sects was originally a branch of the demonic Yulin sect, a sleeper agent planted in the Yu Kingdom thousands of years ago by the cultivators of the Dark Path. This invasion of the 7 sects by the 6 was the moment they activated that planted seed. The demonic path hoped to achieve the same miraculous effect as when they took Jiang and Che states in a single day, but after thousands of years of inheritance, the upper echelons of Spirit Beast Mountain no longer wished to consider themselves part of Yulin sect. So they coordinated with the other 6 sects, and by some unknown means, they actually tricked the demonic cultivators into sending men to ambush one of the 7 sects' outposts. Those thousands of raiders were ambushed mid-route by the prepared 7 sect cultivators, who struck with overwhelming force. 2 core formation cultivators even fell on the spot, a brutal blow right to the head of the 6 demon sects. This filled the 7 sect disciples with joy and boosted their morale, while the 6 demon sects, furious and humiliated, launched a full-scale assault. The 7 sects refused to back down, deploying their formations to meet the assault. The two sides clashed in a series of massive battles at the borders between Yu, Jiang, and Chechi nations. Over a dozen engagements in total, more than 10,000 cultivators fell, and even 7 or 8 core formation cultivators perished. It was a true bloodbath.
The look of lingering terror on the cultivator who had delivered the spirit stones that day as he recounted the tale left Han Li and everyone present deeply shaken. They silently thanked their luck for not being caught in a conflict of that scale. The 6 Devil Dao sects truly lived up to their reputation as one of Tianan region's 2 great powers. Their strength was simply not something the Yu Kingdom's cultivation world could match.
After 7 or 8 clashes, the 7 sects clearly couldn't hold out under the enemy's ferocious assault. If the 7 sects hadn't set up several massive restriction arrays in advance and relied on those formations to hold out, they would have been defeated long ago. But even so, the 7 sects couldn't hold out much longer.
Just as the situation in Yue grew dire, the cultivators from Yuanwu and Zijin, 2 mid-sized nations bordering Yue, finally arrived to reinforce the 7 sects. The 7 sects, wise before the war even began, had already sent eloquent envoys to both kingdoms to plead for reinforcements. Upon receiving the letter, the leading sects of those 2 kingdoms naturally feared that if the demonic path took Yue, they too would be swallowed up. So without the envoys needing to waste many words, they readily agreed to send aid. With the addition of cultivators from those 2 nations, the disparity in strength between the Yue kingdom and the 6 demonic sects was no longer so overwhelming. Relying on the power of their defensive formation, the 7 sects managed to hold back the demonic assault. And just like that, the 6 demon sects' plan to take Yue in one fell swoop was shattered. The conflict between both sides ground to a stalemate. It devolved into a war of attrition. Large-scale battles grew scarce, but small-scale raids began cropping up across both Yu and the 6 Devil Dao sects' rear territories, especially around spirit stone mines and resource hubs. Those became the Devil Dao's primary targets for ambush. Yet the spirit stone mine where Han Li was stationed had somehow never been raided by the enemy, perhaps because it lay too far from the front lines. That, in itself, was nothing short of a miracle. But the more that was the case, the more uneasy the 7 sects became about this place. Half a month ago, they dispatched another 20-odd cultivators to reinforce the area, led by a late Foundation establishment cultivator from the Spirit Beast Mountain sect. This naturally bolstered the mine's defenses considerably. But Han Li sensed a storm brewing. He trained in the great derivations art even more diligently, and a breakthrough to the first layer was now tantalizingly close. However, among this second wave of qi condensation cultivators arriving to reinforce, Han Li unexpectedly ran into an acquaintance, the ugly man, Zhong Hu, whom he had once met during the blood-forbidden trial. Zhong Hu recognized Han Li as well, but faced with Han Li's current Foundation establishment cultivation, his expression flickered through surprise, envy, and admiration in rapid succession, a display that left Han Li utterly astonished. In the end, Zhong Hu let out a bitter laugh and still stepped forward to offer Han Li a respectful salute. Recalling the kaleidoscope of expressions on Zhong Hu's face, Han Li, seated in meditation, couldn't help but smile to himself as he opened his eyes.
My current state of mind isn't really suited for continuing the great development art. I'll wait until I've broken through this mental bottleneck before trying again.
Time flew. Another month passed for Han Li, spent partly on rotating watch duty and mostly on cultivating the grand divination art and crafting puppets.
At this moment, he could clearly sense that the first layer of the great development art was nearing completion, a realization that left Han Li both surprised and delighted.
Whether I cultivate the 5 Elements Dao or the Azure Essence sword art, my aptitude is always mediocre. But the great development art flows smoothly without the slightest difficulty. It feels almost effortless. That's truly astonishing.